Good afternoon, everybody. It is Mike the Bowtie Writer, and happy 2019, everybody. So now that we're getting into 2019, it is always a time to reflect, and it's a good time to take a stock of the goals for 2018 and just see how I did. So let's get to it. First of all, before anything else, sort of the foundation goal that I set for myself was I set a couple of metrics. I wanted to try and force myself to have my butt in the chair. I don't track word counts. Word counts don't work, especially when it comes time to revise. It was just too many feel-bads when I would look back and say my word count was minus 2,000 words for the day. Instead, I track time. That's what I've been tracking for years. I have an elaborate spreadsheet for it. It's something that I really find much more useful. The metrics that I kept for myself was that I wanted to shoot for writing over 300 hours this year with at least 65% of participation, meaning at least 65% of the days of the year I actually spent time writing. I want to try and avoid these long gaps without me doing any writing at all. Oh, I nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. I wrote 329.75 hours throughout the entire year. I met my goal back in November. It was fantastic. My participation was only about 53%. Some of that is because I took my foot off the gas once we got to December after just trying to recuperate from NaNoWriMo. But still, I was absolutely stoked. I didn't think 300 hours was possible, and towards the end of November, I realized if I pushed it, I could have easily done 360 hours. Hands down, the first and most important goal that I gave myself for 2018 was that I wanted to finish the third draft of my giant robot novel, Stars of Steel and Iron, and get that puppy ready to submit. And I can tell you right now the results of that is that I did. I completed that third draft towards the end of July. It was fantastic. I got it done, and I've actually sent it out and sent some queries with it. At this point, it's accumulated about a half dozen rejections. I got some sent off before the beginning of November, and then November hit, and then a lot of agents were closed for queries over the holidays, so that was where it kind of died off. But I met that goal. I achieved that goal. I have never queried a novel before, and I had people asking me for pages. I got some full manuscript requests. I am over the moon with how well that went. So that was very exciting. I am incredibly pleased with it. I've never had a book at a spot where I can say this thing is done in all of my years of writing, and having been able to accomplish that now, it makes me really excited going forward because I just feel like, yeah, I can do this. The next goal that I laid out for 2018 was that I told myself I wanted to finish a draft of my next fantasy novel. This one didn't quite work out that way. Okay, for this one, some of it has to do with the fact that after Stars of Steel and Iron, I decided that I first of all wanted to give myself 1 month to just work on any kind of game writing, game design, start writing this sort of plan for this story, or write these rules for this role-playing game, just as a way to try and stretch my muscles and work on some things that I wanted to try. This delayed my work on the next book. Second of all, the other thing is that I started working on a different book, not my fantasy novel. I got hit with this idea for this story that was an homage to tabletop role-playing games, and that became my NaNoWriMo project. I also delayed that project so that I would be able to start it at the beginning of Nano. The point is that I didn't even touch that next fantasy novel. That goal, not quite as successful. After that, I set myself a goal of write 4 short stories, 1 a quarter, and submit them. This is another goal that I did not achieve, and okay, so I confess, this is something that, as someone who wants to be a professional author, this is a weakness that is very embarrassing for me. I just do not grok short stories. I don't know how to write them, and I'm really bad at it. And that was an area that I really wanted to try and address, and I didn't, I did some work on short stories, but I spent almost all of January last year working on this one short story that just ended up being a tangled mess and not good. So I didn't get the kind of progress that I wanted. I didn't get any kind of comfort with it. So that was not really a success for 2018. There is one other really cool highlight that I wanted to talk about. I did some freelance game work at the very end of 2017 and the beginning of 2018, and the result of that was something that was really cool. Later on this year, I got my first contributor copy. Hold on. I did not write this whole thing at all, actually. But see that monster? That's my monster. I made that monster. They took my description of this monster and they gave it to an artist, and an artist made it come alive. That was so crazy. And that's also when my wife said to me, she's like, you realize you're a published writer now, right? Like, they paid you money for this, and your words, your stuff that you created are in print. So that was a real watershed moment for me. Like, I am a writer. I am a professional writer. People have paid me money for my words, and to see someone also take my stuff, take my words, and create something out of it is really, really rewarding. It was also me playing in game writing, and that is an area that I definitely want to explore more. That was something that was really interesting, and it's an area I've been curious to explore. It's something that is still on my burner when we move into 2019. Finally, something that is not directly related to my writing, but something that is really important to me, is to make sure that I am still continuing to push myself to read. So I set myself the goal of reading 70 books this last year in 2018. And I can tell you, as someone who lives with a librarian, sometimes that feels woefully inadequate, but it's what works for me. And I can tell you, as of 5 p.m. December 31st, I nailed that goal. I also want to be clear, this was not me sitting down and reading, 70 huge fantasy books through the year. This was me listening to a lot of audiobooks. There was a few business and self-help books that were just kind of small little tomes. There was several, graphic novels and comic collections. But that's what was realistic, and that was what I could read throughout the year. So that was something that I was okay with. To sum up 2018, I would say that I am super stoked because I am actually in a position to start querying my book. I've got another book on the burner that I'm starting to work on, and I still need to work on some short stories. So, alright, guys, you've been wonderful about listening to me babble. I really want to be clear about, my goals and my expectations, because this is my journey to be published, to be a writer, whatever that means. And I want to share every step of that way with you. And for me, a big part of that is setting my goals and regularly reviewing them and going over them and seeing, how am I doing? How am I working on this process? Am I on the path I want to be on? And I can tell you that right now I am headed in the direction I want to go. Maybe not as fast as I want to be. I think sometimes when you see someone who is like an established author, an established writer, it's easy to lose sight of all the small individual steps they had to take to get there along the way. Alright everybody, that's it. That's all I have for this week. Be kind to yourselves. I hope you have had a lovely set of holidays. That's all I have. I'm Mike the Bowtie Writer. I will see you all next time.